Hello, the following video is a recording from our travel photography workshop held within the MetaJungle Discord on March 1st. This session was taught by Nakul Sharma, and Nakul has been a photographer for the last 10 years. This is the second part of our two-part workshop, and in this session, we are learning about rules of composition and long exposure. So with that being said, let's get into it.
So in the first session, we normally talk about landscape and travel photography and how to choose a destination and what is the best gear normally for your travel and landscape photography. So I had a good session. I believe everyone loved it and everyone enjoyed it as well. And yeah, so after talking to MetaGirl, we decided we go for a next session as well. So in this session, definitely we'll be going more deep into landscape and travel photography, and we'll be discussing some of the rules of composition about how to compose your pictures and how to frame them, and of course this is one of the challenge for everyone for landscape photography, and even for travel photography, that we know the rules, but how to apply them and how to actually even to study them as well. So I'll be sharing my knowledge, what I have gathered in in those years. I could be wrong as well and I could be right as well, so please don't mind if anyone here is to correct me. Most welcome. All the comments and all the questions are most welcome. you know and so let me start, with the so today's topic is our topic is let me share to see. Okay, the rule of composition in travel photography. So this is my own design and own actually presentation that I have designed with my photos, with my experiences. Uh, yes, I have just gathered some knowledge, and then made a whole presentation. So let me start with the composition. What is composition basically? Like normally in photography, there are once we start a photography, uh, we need to learn some rules first. So once we know the rules, then we start going and breaking the rules and modifying those rules and all. So the composition is one of the most major and the vital, I think, part of our photography, that we need to learn. Even I learned as well from my seniors, from my mentors, and for even from other photographers, by watching their style of photography as well. So some composition if I go in a definition way, it's something that is created by arranging several things to form a unified whole actually. So we have learned in the first session, that when we do a travel and landscape photography, there are a few elements that we always find in our photography. Those are man-made elements and the natural elements, and we use those elements to make a picture. So now the composition is when we use those elements and we create by arranging those elements into a unified whole that looks better and that looks amazing. That is called a composition. The rule of composition in photography were created as a general guidelines for what works in good photos. And I still believe these are still guidelines. Basically, these are not the rules, because human nature and basically human mind is that way. Once we say it's rule, we stick on that. People, if you say to someone that this is a rule, so people hesitate to break it. That's a human nature basically. But I always suggest and I always tell people, those who are new in this photography, take them as a guideline, general guideline. uh, because once you overcome and once you're done with these guidelines, then later on you can break them, you can modify them, you can bend them, and you can actually evolve them as well according to your style of photography. But once you say it's rule, then sometimes people are hesitant, people are so scared to break the rules, and there the growth in your photography stops basically. So I just suggest, or I tell everyone, take them as a guideline, consider them as a guideline. Once you learn these guidelines or learn these rules, you can say that, and then later on modify them, and later on adapt, change them according to your style or photography. So this is what I have decided. I have divided the whole rules of composition into some topics, into some subjects, like the rule of third, leading lines, focal length compression, horizontal or vertical, breaking the rule of third. Like I said, first rule of photography or first guideline is to learn it, and then we try to break it so that we can evolve and we can actually learn more better way, we can create more creative shots as well. So the photography is all about that. When I started photography, definitely I went through this process, and everyone has been to this process. They learned the rules, they learned the guidelines, and then they started breaking those guidelines, breaking the rules, to being more creative, to produce something more interesting and the more wacky compositions, you can say that. And balance, fill the frame, simplicity, symmetry, framing, and conclusions. So this is gonna be a long session, I believe. Okay, let me start with the first basic, very basic rule. I think the rule of third everyone knows, those who are there, those who are listening me. And I believe uh, rule of third is a basic rule of photography that we do. It is everywhere. It's the first rule of composition that everyone should know and learn in photography. It's called the rule of third and the rule of thumb. It applies in any genre of photography. You talk about landscape, you talk about people photography, you talk about fashion, you talk about wildlife, you talk about any and even any other genre or any other photography. So this rule helps photographer to frame and to capture more beautifully. So this is one of the basic rule that we have to learn, and everyone has to learn. So the basic principle behind the rule of third is to imagine breaking an image down into third part, vertical and horizontally. In simple words, so this rule says, you have to place your subject not in the center, off center. So the basic rule say, the basic, in simple words, if I explain, imagine the two vertical lines and two horizontal lines in your frame, and wherever these lines intersect, it produce a circle over there, and we call it a golden circle. So you have to place your subject, whatever your subject is, on these intersection points, or in these golden circles. So in simple words, we advise not to put your we advise not to put your subject into the center, but either on the left or either on the right side, but where the line intersects as well. Okay, so imagine your picture are divided into third, both horizontally and vertically, and you put a subject where the line intersect. So the rule of third says we have to place a subject in any of the four intersect points. But the question rises always here, why we should do that, what it gives us. So now there are many factors that decide by applying the rule of third in a photo. Okay, we say what we achieve by applying a rule of third. We achieve three things: breathing space, law of attraction, and a balanced photo. So imagine, if you apply a rule of third, it always create a breathing space in the picture. Let me show you an example. This is one of my favorite picture from Norway. So if you can see, this mountain and the houses are my main subject. I applied a rule of third into this frame, into this picture, and I basically placed it very well by applying the rule of third. And thanks to this rule of third, that I got some breathing space, here as well, and there's some breathing space in the backside of as well. So a photo need to breathe. We believe that if the photo is too much congested, or too much like filled with all, so that might be the not interesting and not really good attractive photo. But again, depending on the subjects as well. So the first thing that we achieve by applying a rule of third is a breathing space. It allows the photo to breathe, okay, which gives the more, actually, more appealing as well. Second, it creates a law of attraction. Of course, when we apply a rule of third, okay, either you put your subject on the right side, or either you put your subject on the left side, where the intersecting lines meet. So you creating a law of attraction automatically. So now the viewer's eye start from here, going on the subject and rotating in the whole frame and rotating left and right and all that. So it creates a law of attraction also at the same time when you apply a rule of third. The third thing which we achieve, which we can achieve by applying a rule of third, is a balanced photo. Of course, I believe when you apply a rule of third, it creates a possibility to make a photo more balanced. Means if I am putting a subject on my left and right, I can bring more data, I can bring more, subject or more other details into the frame, and it will allow a picture to be balanced. But well, sometimes we believe that you have, when you apply a rule of third, you have to be very sure that your photo doesn't shouldn't look a one-sided, one side weighted, one-sided heavy photo. You have to be very careful when you are applying a rule of third, that you watch very carefully that photo shouldn't be look like tilted, or tilted in mean in what in mean in what sense, one-sided weighted or one-sided it's heavy photo. That is up to the photographer, where he's standing, what he's clicking, where he's clicking, how he's clicking, and how he's applying the subject by applying the rule of third as well. So these three things that we can achieve, by applying a rule of third: breathing space, law of attraction, and the balanced photo as well. So now let me give you some examples of my as I with my photos, that I created. So if you see this picture, it is one of my favorite picture from Varanasi. It's in India. So the subject is here, okay, but I applied a rule of third here. Okay, I have a breathing space, a good breathing space as well, breathing space in the backside as well. And we have to be very careful when you are applying a rule of third. We have to be very careful that you don't completely, put your subject just next to the frame. There should be some breathing space at the backside as well. That is what the rule of third, says, that you should the subject on the intersecting lines. Now, even if you're left and right, little bit off, but it's okay. For easy way, for those who are new, because we believe these are imaginary lines. Those who are experienced photographer, they don't need these lines. They can imagine these lines in their head, and they can click it. But in your camera, there's always an option of grid lines. You can turn on the grid lines, or even in your phone as well, there is an option of grid lines. You can turn on the grid lines, and then you can actually see where the lines are intersecting, where you're standing, and where you can put the subject. This is very easiest way to, for the new people, those who want to understand, these intersecting points. So in this picture, we have a breathing space. I use the shallow depth of field. Shallow depth of field, by shallow depth of field means by low aperture, f 2.8 or f4, I guess. I completely focused on this person, and the other completely out of focus, which creates more bokeh, which creates a more law of attraction actually into that picture. And the third is a completely balanced picture as well. There is one subject which is here as well, and the other subjects are also there as well. So this picture doesn't look like a one sided tilted, or one side weighted photo as well. So you have to be very careful, when you are applying the rule of third. So it doesn't mean when you apply a rule of third, you can achieve all three. Sometimes you just get the breathing space, sometimes you just get the breathing space and the law of attraction, or sometimes you get all of three as well. But again, situation wise, where you're standing, where are you clicking, how you are clicking, and what is your subject actually on that moment. So that is, but now you know the rule of third, why we apply rule of the third, and what it give to us basically as a rule of third. Now you can see this picture. It was in Cappadocia in Turkey. I was waiting. I woke up very early in the morning, and I was waiting for these balloons. It was one of the most luckiest, and not I wouldn't say luckiest, but I would say I had to plan this shot in just couple of seconds, because I wanted these two balloons, together lit up, and then the reflection of these light, happening on the ground, and so it was completely, on the moment, and on the moment decided composition. So you can see the rule of third is here, breathing space is there, okay, especially law of attraction is there, because the light is reflecting on the ground, which creates amazing law attraction. And at the same time, the sunrise is happening on the back, and it is balanced. Imagine if these two were not there in the picture, then I would definitely say, this picture would look one sided, weighted or one-sided, heavy one, but thanks to these two balloons of where they completely balance the photo, and it looks more balanced one, so sometimes you have to be very careful while you're clicking, applying a subject. This is hand handle shot, not the tripod. Sometimes you have to be very very quick, because I remember when I was there, these balloons were floating, they were going up, so I have to be very quick, with my composition. It took me just a couple of seconds to decide. Yes, it comes with practice. More you practice, more you go out in the field. I'd still do mistakes. There's no not even a single photographer in the world who don't take the test shots. We even a photographer like a 50 years old experienced one, or a photographer like 10-year old or 5-year old experienced, that he still take the test shots. So we even I do, I mess up sometime as well. I may do mistakes as well, but I learn very quickly at the same time. Okay, this is not good one. I need to change myself. I need to change my angle, or I need to change my position. So this is rule of third again. Breathing space again. Here I took the whole one thing as a subject. There is one there's beautiful subject as well. There's breathing space as well, and I added a boat into the frame deliberately because I wanted to create a law of attraction. Plus, I went for a long exposure shot, not the normal clouds, not the normal clouds on normal shot. I went for a long exposure shot so that it creates more drama and attraction in the photo. That's why the clouds were moving, and definitely the breathing space is here. Plus, this simple boat actually, balancing even at the same time, because this subject is too heavy at one side, but by adding a small detail or by adding a small subject into your frame, it basically did two things. First, it killed the negative space, because sometimes you have to be very careful when you are applying a rule of third. The lot of breathing space, a more breathing space, could turn into a negative space as well. So sometimes that negative space is not appreciated. It becomes the killer of attraction, or killer of your whole picture. The purpose of picture is what? The purpose of picture, it's whoever is watching, and your viewer should connect with that picture, and his eye should rotate or should roll into the whole picture. That is the purpose of a photography, which I believe, which I even learned from other photographers, that when I'm watching a picture, when I'm seeing a picture, the eye of my eye should roll or should rotate in the whole picture, and then the purpose is achieved. So you have to be very careful what you brings in and what you brings out of the frame, by adding a small boat, even if it's not sharp, because it's a long exposure picture, long exposure shot. The boat was moving, but still I kept it here because I loved it, and I calculated in my mind that it would balance the picture, and it would definitely kill the negative space as well, because if the boat wasn't there, then definitely this whole space could turn into a negative space, or blank space, which is not good as well for the photo. So of course, balanced photo attracts more. Here in this photo, the mountain seems like the most powerful subject. It's a human nature, very human nature. Whenever we see something big, it becomes our subject. So it's very human nature. Whenever I see a subject which is too big in front of my eyes, that becomes my subject. So definitely, this mountain becomes my subject. But I need to balance it with these houses by applying the rule of third. I apply the rule of third here, and here I got the breathing space, balanced photo, and now you can see the viewer's eye start from here, rotate all the way up to the back, then to the subject, and then coming down here as well. So it's perfectly balanced and perfectly achieved. Whatever the purpose is achieved as well at the same time. So this is what rule of third gives. Actually, it gives you breathing space in the photo. It gives you law of attraction, more law of attraction, by applying it left and right, your subject not in the center, and it creates a well balanced picture as well. The rule of third can be applied to the subject to give some attention to the other elements or the minor subject that are visible to in the frame. Like this picture, if we say it was my dream place, it is from Dolomites. I, instead of putting my subject into the middle, this is my main subject, of course. Instead of putting it in the middle, I prefer to put it on the left side. Why? Because the moment I put it on the left side, these two came in the frame, Keys 2 also came in the frame, and now I'm giving value to these small mountains as well at the same time, so I calculated the composition. I calculated, in my mind I should do it in a that way, putting it left, and these two small mountains are complementing the big one, or the big one complementing the small one. This looks a very perfect shot, very beautiful shot. And plus I added the reflection also, so the law of attraction is here as well. And this small, having a foreground, even, some details in the foreground as well, creating a more law of attraction as well. And plus applying the rule of third as well, so this is what rule of third can bring or can give you in a photo, so it basically, it's discouraging placing the subject at the center to prevent a horizon from splitting the picture into two. That is what rule of third could be applied, so this is what our first topic, rule of third. uh, it's okay, good. Should I go continue?
Yeah, you're all good.
Yeah. Anyway, but meanwhile, when you have a question or something, after every topic, you can let me know as well, brother.
Okay, I will.
Yeah, thank you. Okay, let's go on the second part. We have is leading lines. Of course, leading lines is the second composition that we need to understand. We need to learn always. Leading lines is it's one of the favorite subject, and one of the major composition in landscape and travel photography. A line in a photo is a point that moves, leading towards something. Some lines are obvious, some are implied. The viewer eye are naturally drawn along lines, so the leading lines, in simple way, if I say, we use the lines, in the photo, that brings the attention of the viewer towards the subject of your photograph. That is the purpose of the leading lines, basically. So these lines can be straight, can be diagonal, can be wavy, or any other creative variation, basically. So now let me give you the creative version first. I'll give you the creative version of the leading line. This is the creative version of the leading line. Of course, what you asked me, where basically these all huts and houses are lined up in a line. Okay, so I prefer to click all together with a reflection, which actually evokes the sense of a leading line, basically. But it is a creative version. But if I give you the simple example of a leading line, this is a simple example of the leading line. Okay, now you see this railing, basically. So normally we say, we in the photograph, we normally, if we want to show the leading lines, we look for the lines. Okay, so this railing is a perfect example of the line, and it's starting from here, and it's bringing the attention towards till to the end. But my subject is this one. Of course, you have to choose the subject. So the sometimes these lines help the viewer to actually, draw the attention towards the subject. So now if you see this picture, you start your attention from here, and you go all the way to the till to the end. So this is the purpose of the leading line, actually. So now if I see this bridge, I took it in Venice, I went under the bridge. My subject was these buildings and the lights, actually, but I used the bridge as a leading line. I use this bridge as a line to draw the attention of the viewers on these houses and on this lighting, actually. So this becomes a leading line as well, at the same time, my bridge, actually. So sometimes you have the natural, in the natural world also, leading lines are present. Of course, in man-made world, is very easy to find the leading lines by the bridge, by the railings, and by other means. And but in the natural world as well, you have some leading lines, like here. Okay, you can see these sand dunes. Basically, on the sand dunes, these forms and shapes are leading me towards up. So this is one of the more beautiful example of the leading lines, towards the sky, actually. So this is drawing more attention of the viewer towards up, actually. So here is one more example. I clicked this photo. It was my biggest dream to visit the ice cave, and visit the ice cave, and click the photos. So it was kind of like a dream shot. So here you can see this ice cave. I visited in Iceland. So it looks like in the form of tunnel, basically. So now the even now the now this form of the tunnel itself and form of the cave itself leading me towards the exit. So here I am as a subject. So if when you see a picture, this whole formation of the cave, leading me towards somewhere, so that is subject. So that is the purpose of the leading line. So like I said, sometimes the lines are obvious and sometimes lines are implied. Some lines are diagonal, some lines are wavy, some lines are straightforward as well. But yeah, it's up to photographer how he or she wants to represent these leading lines as well. Like now this waterfall, you can see the perfect example of a leading line. There's a waterfall, there is a stream in front of the waterfall. Now when I see the stream, that direct my attention towards the waterfall, and now I took a long exposure photography as well, long exposure the moving clouds as well. So everyone is drawing attention towards a main subject here as well. Okay, this is a perfect. There's one more example of a leading line that is more creative version. Now I see this aurora as a line, and I try to capture this arosa as a leading line which drawing the attention towards the subject. So this is what my subject and this is what my aurora, and this is just a momentary or temporary line. It's not a permanent line, it's not a line which is which is present in the nature or in permanently. It is just a temporary line. So sometimes you go and out and you watch these these kinds of creative lines where creative which leads the viewer eye towards something. So every if you see anyone who sees this photo, definitely his eye starts from this line and then definitely goes towards the main subject as well. Plus I added the reflection part as well, which creates more drama, more attention, and more appealing at the same time. This is the perfect example of the leading line. Wherever I go in the world, I try to look for these kind of roads. In US is too much, I believe. There are too many roads in US, in national parks, and in Norway as well, even in Iceland as well. But this is a perfect example of the leading line. Now the road is like a leading line basically. It driving the attention towards the mountain. So the mountain is the subject. Okay, so that is a perfect example of the leading line normally. Okay, now you see these lavender fields in France. I traveled to France. It was my again dream destination. I wanted to go to these lavender fields, wanted to shoot these lavender fields. So I used these lavender fields as a leading line to focus on the subject. But sometimes your lines don't end on the subject. They go beyond the subject as well. So depending on the situation, depending on where you are where are you shooting, what are you shooting. So here I added the two subject. One is the house is the main subject, and second is the mountain in the background. So these lavender fields are directing the attention towards the house and going beyond the house and taking me to the basically to the lavender to the mountain as well. So this is a perfect example of the leading line. The purpose of photography is the eye of the viewer should rotate in the whole scene. This is what we are achieving by following the lines actually. How many lines you can see in this photo? There are many lines. Now let me tell you, there are more than 17 lines present in the frame. So the subject was this train station that was in Lisbon in Portugal. Okay, so I decided to stand on the next side of the road and click it because I saw the pattern and I saw the symmetry and I saw the leading lines everywhere. Yeah, it took years and years of experience. Like I said, the more you practice, the more you go out in the field, the more you connect with the nature or connect with the surrounding within yourself, with yourself, sorry, surrounding around you, sorry, then you understanding, start feeling it. So this is what I decided. Okay, I should stand on the other side of the road, make a trail as a line. Then there are many leading lines. There are all the lines like this line, this bridge, all are taking me to this beautiful structure, the train station as well. So this is what more appealing now, and plus I added a car trail as a creative version which looks more interesting as well at the same time. Okay, so this is what leading lines basically. Any question, Gun? Or shall we go?
No questions yet.
Thank you, brother. The third one is focal length compression. It's one of the most used composition in landscape photography. In simple words, if I say focal length compression, in simple words, it's where we use the zoom lens power as a strength to cut the unwanted element in the photo to focus on a particular subject. Okay, so this is what a focal length compression and a focal length zoom power, both you can say. So play with your focal length in simple tasks by zooming and zooming out of the lens while shooting. It depends on the photographer what he wants to show and what or shoot as a as subject. All the focal length are perfect. There is no perfect focal length in any photography. If you ask me, should I shoot landscape at wide angle, or I can't shoot landscape at 200 mm. No, there is no answer. You can shoot landscape at any mm you want. You can shoot at. I have seen photos, pictures or of landscape photographers. They have clicked at 400 mm as well, and I have seen the pictures they were clicked at 15 mm as well. But again, depending on the subject, depending on situation where you're standing and how you're standing and what is your subject and what you want to portray and what you want to show as a picture. So this is from Montenegro. It's one of my favorite place and destination I wanted to visit. It's this other. So now you see the difference is I didn't move myself, I didn't move my camera, I just took a two picture, one at a 36 mm and one at a 87 mm. So why I'm saying the focal length compression or focal length power, it's how when you change the length, zoom length, how it changes the perspective and how it changes the whole storyline up as well. So without moving yourself and without moving your camera as well, you can create a different pictures and different perspectives from your camera, from your lens itself. So these two are the perfect example you can see. Again, now we're coming to the compression. What is compression? What is the compression means? There are many photos or many things, when you see your subject looks very small but your background is looks very very huge. And the perfect example I can tell you, like the moon photos. Maybe you have seen on internet, you have seen on picture of moon where the moon look so bigger, and in front of the moon there is a small church or a small town or small anything, tree or something like that. That is called a focal length compression. When you use the full zoom power of your lens, it creates a compression between the subject and the background. So why, how it happens, let me tell you. There is a difference between three things. Where the camera is, where the photographer is standing, and next is your subject, where the subject is standing, and after the background. So there is a huge distance between in between these three. Okay, like if you talk about this picture, okay, it was in Iceland in Skogafoss. Okay, so I was standing very very far from the photographer. I used my 200 full zoom lens to click this photographer, this guy as my subject. So when I focused and when I basically used the zoom power on him, it created the compression automatically on the background as well. Now the background seems more closer to me. You know, that is what called compression for focal length compression. But at the same time, there is a huge distance between him and the waterfall as well. It looks like he's standing in the front of the waterfall, but in reality, he's standing very far from the waterfall itself. So to create these kind of compression, you have to understand the distance and your between you and the subject, and the subject between subject and the background as well. So like there two more examples like I can give you. This one here, here's my subject, these are the mountains, my background. So I was standing very far from him first, using my zoom lens power, using the zoom, creating creating a focus on him, and that at the same time it's creating a compression which gives a look like we are very close to mountain, like here as well. Here you can see. So this can be achieved only by using the full length of your zoom lens. Either it could be 300 mm, 200 mm, or 400 mm as well. Okay, so now by zooming tight right the subject, you eliminate the unwanted elements. Of course, like if you see this picture, it's look like a cropped one. Like here it's like a cropped one, but of course I knew there were some unwanted elements. I didn't want that. So I'm using my zoom length power by by eliminating the unwanted elements and focusing on the main subject and focusing on the basically attend a more create a more beautiful part basically. Okay, so now again the full zoom lens changed the whole perspective. Like I said, when you click your picture for different zoom power at different angle, different focal length as well, it can create a different stories as well. Like you can see this picture, I was standing at the same place, but both the perspectives are different at 170 mm and the 200 mm as well. Again, by changing the focal length, I agree on what you I want to show to the viewers. It's a simple choice that which elements matter to a lot in the frame, and once we choose that, it's very easy to decide the focal length. So you have to decide what elements that you want in the picture and what elements you don't want. But my best suggestion to anyone who's listening out there, try many focal length. Whenever I go out today itself, I go out in the field, I take one picture, might be at a wide angle at 15 mm or 20 mm, then I click at 35 mm as well, and then I click at 80 mm or 100 mm as well. But depending again where I'm standing, actually, then I come back home, then I see which photo looks better, which photo looks amazing, and then on that, I go, post it on my social media or as an NFT or whatever. So my best suggestion is experimenting always with your lens and with your camera at the same time while you are on the field. Not just click one picture and move, you're done. Don't do that. I did that a lot. These were the mistakes, but here we are here to learn from me. If you can learn from me, these are, I'm telling you, experimenting at the same time on the field. This is what. So now you can see this picture. This is one of my, again, beautiful dream destination that I did. There's a huge story after that picture. I spent I guess 10 hours, 10 or 11 hours at one spot just to capture this whole scene from night to morning, from 11 p.m. to, I remember, 8 a.m. or 9 a.m. I was there, standing and stating and clicking pictures. So I was crazy, skipping dinner and everything and breakfast, during. So now you can see, without moving an angle, without moving myself, without moving my camera, I created the two different photos, the two different perspectives, just by changing the zoom power or the focal length. So it depending again on you, but at the same time, I applied the rule of third as well. So now whatever you're learning, leading lines, the rule of third, it goes hand in hand. Whatever you learn next means the rules are always there as well. So here you can see the rule of third is there as well. Breathing space is there, law of attraction is there, and basically it's a well balanced picture as well at the same time. Here I wanted, more deep detail, depth version of the photo, so that's why I clicked at 65 mm as well. Again, depending on the perspective, what you like. Again, 85 mm and 58 mm. Again, I just changed the zoom power and I clicked it from the same spot. Here it's less interesting. Why, if you ask me? Because there is this part, it's more dark, more into shadow. That is considered always a negative space in your picture. That could be a distraction to your photo. So you always have to avoid negative space in your pictures. You try to avoid negative space into your picture, which is not interesting. But there are few scenarios where the negative space is necessary, is mandatory. It is mandatory to bring more attention towards something. But again, depending on the situation where you are, but I try to avoid the negative space as much as you can. But in this picture, there is no negative space. There is a tight frame. Details are there. Cloud is less as well, so I can see. So again, depending on photographer vision and photographer point of view, what he and she wants to click and wants to show to the rest of the people. Focal length, again, this is 29 mm and this is 45 mm. Okay, both the pictures, but this one looks more interesting because it gives a feeling of landscape photo, a depth of a landscape photo at 29 mm. Here, if you see that picture, the mountain is cropped, so the curiosity, rises over there. What is after that? Might be a photographer or might be my viewer can rise can raise a question over here. What is after that? It look like a cropped or one. So again, depending, where what you want to show, what you want to shoot, but changing the zoom power, you can actually changes the whole perspective and the photo as well. Just a minute, just a minute. My battery is dying. Okay. I don't know. Yeah, it's good. Okay, so that is what 200 full shot focal length. Again, of course, by using the full zoom power or by using your full focal length, you can create a shallow depth of field. If you're shooting at low aperture, you can create a more drama, more attention, bokeh effect as well. So the focal length matters a lot. At what focal length you want to shoot and how you want to shoot as well. Okay, all good. Good. Me
Yep, all
go.
good.
Okay. Now the next is horizontal or vertical. We always ask this question, should I shoot horizontal or should I shoot vertical? Like what is the best way to shoot? Okay, to any picture. Let me just. Uh, my suggestion is it's endless. This is the biggest subject of landscape and travel photography till now. That should I shoot landscape or should I shoot horizontal? Now it's endless. I think everyone it's a personal vision of everyone. What you feel within yourself. Most of the landscape photography goes horizontal, but vertical shots also have their importance as horizontal. And mostly portrait shots or people photography, we normally recommend that go for vertical shots, but most of my portrait shots are horizontal as well. Again, the conclusion is both are acceptable in travel and landscape photography. So here I click this picture as one as a horizontal one. Here you can see I wanted to show the whole soft light of early morning. It was again in Dolomites and soft light. That's why I went for a horizontal. The one thing that horizontal allows you to bring more data, more actually details in the photo because it's horizontal. Of course it's horizontal. Okay, but vertical, why be vertical? Like in this photo I went for a vertical so that I can show more foreground because I wanted to show the details of the lighting and how the light is reflecting the highlights and the shadow, and plus my subject of this mountain as well. So that's why I went for a vertical shot in this particular one. Okay, but here I went for a horizontal shot in this particular one because I wanted the whole data. Actually, I wanted this mountain, I wanted these two mountains, I wanted the reflection as well, and I wanted this sky also reflection as well. Again, depending on your scenario, depending on your mood, what you want to show and how you want to show actually. Okay, but depending now, vertical shots tell a story of particular subject that and emphasize on it. Of course, when I want to shoot a particular vertical shot in a landscape photography of a particular subject, it means I want to emphasize on a one subject. Like here, I want to emphasize on a Taj Mahal and a reflection of it. I don't care what is left, what is right. I don't care about the whole actually structure of the Taj Mahal. I wanted to just show the reflection and the Taj Mahal itself. So it means I want to emphasize on one particular subject. That's why I went for a vertical shot. Again, in both the pictures, if you see, uh, I would say vertical one has more value than the horizontal one. Might be some people prefer the horizontal one. They said, wow, it's so beautiful, it's so wide and all. But this one, it's more preferable for me because there is less dead space. All the spaces we are watching here, these are dead spaces, these are negative spaces. There is nothing happening in the here, there's nothing happening as well, but here as well, but it's less than the horizontal one. So sometimes you have to be very careful, like while you are shooting horizontal or vertical. Okay, again in this picture as well, I would say the horizontal one is more interesting than the vertical one because the viewer eye starts from here and it goes up to the mountain and then it stops here because there is nothing, no drama, nothing happening in the sky. So here at least I have so many details. The houses are there, the this plant is here, the viewer eye is rotating every way and the light is reflecting in the sky as well. So this one has having a more value than the vertical one as well, according to me. Okay, now don't limit yourself to the rules, classic horizontal format. Sometimes be creative. Like in this photo I clicked a panorama of Milky Way. I clicked 9 vertical shots and then I stitched into a Photoshop to make it a horizontal panorama as well. So depending again your your sense of photography, your creativity level, that how you want to shoot and what you want to shoot, and of course don't limit yourself to the rules of like basic or classic rules. You can create more data, you can create more interesting frames by going beyond the rules as well. Next, breaking the rule of third. Okay, now we learned the first part, uh, the rule of third. Now we try to break it. So in photography it's all about that. That's why I said initially photography is not it's not the rules. I would say these are the guidelines, because guidelines are easy to break, guidelines are easy to modify, easy to amend, and easy to change as well. So these breaking those rules to make it your own signature style of photography. Breaking the rule of third simply means not to put the subject on the intersecting lines. What we have learned earlier in the first rule of third means you have to put your subject on the intersecting lines, not in the center. But now we are going opposite. Now we are saying instead of putting it on the lines, intersecting lines means instead of putting out left and right, now we put a subject into the center and fill the frame actually, fill the frame. So why? Because the subject matter for whole scene. Okay, and sometime it create more unique and wacky composition. It's a subject that demand the center positioning actually. There are some time in my landscape photography, if you see my landscape photography, I place the subject in center because it's the subject that asking for the center position, not asking for the rule of third positioning. Then that will come with feeling, with experience, with the scenario where you're standing here. Okay, there are some scenes where I felt and where I feel that it should go as a rule of third, not as a center positioning, because if I put it in the center, it won't look that much interesting or appealing. But there are some scenes, and there are, like in this case, in this church case, I wanted to show the church, the the light and drama going behind, and of course in the windows as well, there's lighting, passing through the windows and all that. So that is only possible, if I put this subject in the center as well. If I go left and right, might be not that much interesting as well. So sometimes you have to calculate, and you have to see it's your subject that is asking for the center positioning as well. So I place this mountain in the center deliberately because the reflection has the value, okay, itself. So the mountain was the main subject which needed more attention than the other details. So that's why I put it into the main center as well. Again, by putting a subject into the center, you don't just show the value, you actually reveal the characteristic of that subject as well. Sometimes the strongest and the powerful subject, you know those who are strongest in the powerful subject, they need to be placed in the center, because they are so much powerful, they are so much, so much beautiful, or so much actually strength they have as a subject, that only the center placement goes very well with them. Left and right won't go very well. Okay, but again, depending on the scenarios, depending where you're shooting, what you're shooting as well. Like here in this picture, I wanted to shoot this stupa. It's in Ladakh in India. It's a very famous place, and it's it's very big, it's very big, it's very huge. It does in the photo might be don't we don't recognize, we don't feel it, but I wanted to show the grandness and the vastness of this stupa, how big it is. So that's why I placed it into center actually, and I've tried to fill the whole frame with it actually. So sometimes you place it to give the depth of grandeur and the vastness of the subject actually. Central framing gives the sense of peace and calmness as well at the same time. I believe some moments in your life and some moments in your landscape and travel photography are very peaceful moment, a very calm moment where you want to just take a picture because it's so beautiful, so peaceful as well. So central framing is a personal choice of the photographer who wants to, who like how he and she wants to portray, and what story wants to portray. Like this picture, if you talk about, I I was really happy to live my dream. I was standing there for hours and hours when the light came, the clouds and the fog was moving, and the light was, going up and reflecting. So it was so much so peaceful moment, and I decided I won't go for the left and the right composition or the rule of third. I would go straight to this place straight to this mountain, this volcano, and the next volcano, and create place it into the center as well, because giving a value to this volcano as well, and this whole peaceful moment as well. So again, it's a feeling, or it's a different feel of the photographer, that how he or she wants to portray, at the same time. Okay, even I clicked some pictures where I use the rule of third as well, but I love this framing as well, because it gives a sense of calmness and the peaceful moment of that morning, where what I had experienced. Right. So I put him sometime simple framings actually. Simple framings means small tiny subjects. You placed it into the center, even if there are a lot of dead space. But how you overcome that dead space? Sometimes I say there are many subjects in your or many elements in your picture. Like there are many elements right now. There is a subject. There are mountains in the back, and these mountains are more powerful than him. Right. So how I achieve that the whole focus and the whole actually attention goes to this guy, to this tiny subject, not to the other. By applying two rules. First, I place him in the center. Second, I use the shallow depth of field, means lower aperture. I shoot it at f2.8 or f2 or f4, so that it creates a bokeh effect, and it creates a more attention to him and more sharpness to this subject rather than the whole frame actually. So by placing it into the center, you give a value to this subject and devalue the other elements in your photo as well, and it looks more interesting, more maybe creative, more appealing at the same time. Okay. Why? Again, I said it's sometime your subject that demands for the center framing. Like when I reached there, my friends were clicking picture, and I was clicking, and I saw this small triangle in front of this triangle. And again, I said it comes with experience. You have to calculate, you have to feel a lot around you, what you're shooting, how you're shooting. So I say this triangle, this small mountain reflects identical to this one, and it complementing each other, so I should place him in the center, so that this actually complement thing carries on. So sometimes it's your subject that asks for the center placement. Now again, in this picture as well, center placement, of course there is a huge story, how strong you are in your life, how strong as other forces can be around you, but you don't give up. This is the story I wanted to portray. This guy standing tall in the huge front of the huge waterfall, not giving up, not scared as well. So center position is the only option there to portray the whole story, to narrate the whole feeling and the story as well at the same time. Okay. Yeah. So next we go balance. Okay. Any questions then so far?
Nope.
Thank you. Okay. Let's go balance. What is balance? Balance is created when the subject areas look balanced in the photo throughout the whole composition. It can be achieved by applying rule of third and color theory actually. Of course, a balanced photo look always interesting, but when we talk about balance, if you ask me, Nakul, what balance? What are you talking about balance? Is the balance like left and right balance or no? No, in the terms of photography, we say the balance means when the subject's area look balanced in the photo throughout the composition. Like how can you achieve the balance? By applying a rule of third or by applying a color theory. There are few types of balance in your composition, like color balance. Try to take a picture which looks color balanced, which looks more harmonious, actually. Second, you can achieve a balanced photo by applying a rule of third, which we have just learned in the first topic. Okay. And the third is tonal balance. So we're gonna you know explain. I'm gonna try to explain one by one. What is color theory basically? Color theory is a technique of combining specific colors in a way that look harmonious. In other words, they look great together. So when the photography started, some people started clicking pictures, and they started feeling the some colors looks really amazing together. Amazing. Whenever cool tones come together with the warm tones, they look really interesting and together and beautiful. So I'm talking about like 100 200 years back. So they made a color wheel, and they decided some color theories and color schemes on that color schemes means whenever these colors come together, whenever these tones come together, they always look interesting and it creates a color theory. So these are the color theories basically: analog, complementary, split complementary, monochromatic, triadic, quadratic, and diode. Of course, you ask me, Nakul, photography is getting more and more complicated now. Of course, photography is a huge study, and it takes it's math itself. When you goes more deeper into technical part, when it goes more deeper into color theory part, I'm still learning. I won't say that I'm an expert or I'm a if I do any mistake, please comment in the session, teach me as well. At the same time, I don't mind it. Okay, learning from other people as well. But again, I see, it's a huge thing. Learning about colors, learning about techniques, learning about technical aspects, it endless. So you photography is like goes again and again, like longer and longer than that, so years and years. But now coming to the topic, color theory, what are color schemes basically? So now if you ask me a question, Nakul, what are color schemes? So these are the color schemes basically. This is the color wheel that we invented. There are degrees of color from darker to brightest. Okay, and then from these are the basically color theories: that analog, complementary, split complementary, monochromatic, triadic, quadratic, or diode. Okay, now if you ask me a practical question, Nakul, when you click a picture, do you really keep color theory in your mind before clicking a picture? Well, having a knowledge of something, having a knowledge of photography, it always helps you. It always helps you. Okay, it you because you know better, over there that okay, I know this knowledge. Having a knowledge of, like, your flight is your international flight, and you have to reach 3 hours before. It is a knowledge, and when you use that knowledge, you always are on the safe side. So again, photography is like that. Having a knowledge of color theory, it helps you. It actually helps you on the ground and achieving the better result. But applying those rules are sometimes could be tricky, sometimes could be very very hard. Sometimes I don't think about it, sometimes I think about it. Okay, on a practical, I'm gonna be honest with you as well. I think many photographers who agree with me, sometimes we are so much in hurry, sometimes we have so we don't have that much time that we think about a color theory before, we click it, and it's with practice sometimes it's achieved automatically as well. But analog, complementary, split complementary, chromatic, triadic. But if you ask me practically, which color theory normally we achieve in landscape? Okay, normally there are 3 or 4 color theories that are more visible and more practical in your landscape photography: is triadic, monochromatic, complementary, and your analog. These are the more practical for where you see quadratic, split, and diode. These are very, very, very basically very hard compositions or hard color theory that you see in the landscape photography. Now, let me show you the example first. Okay, so the color balance, it's by keeping the color theory in mind, you compose an image that looks whole balanced within, where the main subject of color balance with the other colors in the frame. In simple word, if I say there are always vibrant colors in your frame, and you try to compensate or you try to balance those vibrant colors with the neutral colors as well. Okay, neutral colors. So it is called color, like it automatically is achieved color balanced photo. But now if you ask me this picture, while I was standing in Kyrgyzstan and watching the sunset. No, so during the sunset, I know that I can compensate, or I can basically balance my vibrant color with the pastel colors or with the neutral colors. So most of the time, that's why photographers or landscape photographers try to shoot in the sunrise and the sunset, because automatically you can achieve a color balanced photo over there as well. So if you see, there are 3 colors here. Okay, green, bluish, and orangish type, which is normally at the time of sunset comes. So if you see these colors, 3 colors that comes from a triadic wheel: blue, green, and orangish. This is basically most of the time that you can see in the landscape photography as well. And there's one more color that you can see in the most of the time in landscape photography is complementary. Cool color, with the warm colors as well. I'm not going very deep because I know it could be confusing for you all. Otherwise I could go very deep with the definitions and all, but I'm not going. Okay, so the cool colors, bluish tones, with the orangish tone. Let me show you the example of the this cool tones with the warm tones. So my favorite time of shooting is blue hour. Okay, in this case, sometime I don't care about the color theory because it is automatically achieved. Automatically, how? Because when you are shooting in the blue hour, there are always warm tones, the lighting of the city, blue, orangish or the yellowish light, and the blue in the sky. So while you're shooting a while you're shooting a blue hour, okay, in any town, in any city, you are automatically achieving a color theory. But again, we don't have to forget the rules at the same time. I am balancing the photo with the color theory, but at the same time I am applying the rule of third as well. You can see here is a rule of third as here as well. So whatever rules you have learned, whatever rules you have a knowledge, apply those rules. At the same time, you try to achieve the color theory as well. It comes with practice. The more you click, the more you get familiar with your camera, the more you get familiar with the surrounding, like sunset, sunrise, the more you get familiar with the colors. Okay, I need to shoot at this time because I know these colors I can balance with the pastel colors, with the neutral colors as well. Like here, I waited for the sunset because it looks really beautiful. Again, by finding a balance, okay, finding the colors in the scene and balance it with the neutral colors, that could be challenging, but it's more beautiful when it's properly framed with the elements present within the moment as well. So you have to be very careful. You have to be you have to having a knowledge of color theory. It's always cherry on the cake. But of course, sometime I think, sometime even I don't think as well. Okay, I'm honest with you. Sometime I don't have time. I don't have my sunset is going down and down, and I try to achieve the photo first, and then later on I see if the color theory is present into that photo or not. But that is not advisable thing. Having a knowledge, take your time and then click it. But again, there are some moments where you're stuck, where you don't have the time as well. Like you see here, this picture. Okay, if you ask me again, beautiful colors, sunset timing. I waited till sunset, till beautiful sunset happened, because I knew the colors will arrive, the colors will arrive in the photo, and I will achieve a color theory. Like here, this one, triadic, orangish, green, and bluish tone, because the three colors were present in the frame. And again, at the same time, I'm not forgetting the rule of third as well, or the other rules as well. I applied the rule of third here as well. So this is what a completely, you can say, a completely color balanced composed picture, color balanced compositional picture, where the color theory is achieved and the composition is great as well at the same time. Again, after the monsoon or after the rain, your colors become more vibrant. Of course, that's why I prefer to shoot after the rain, because on the ground you can see the vibrant colors are coming, vibrant colors are there. So you can compensate those vibrant colors with the neutral colors, like a sky, bluey sky, or sunset mode, that gives the beautiful balanced picture to you as well. Okay, in this scene, if you see the green and the blue, of course, we go back to the wheel, we can see the analog color theory. Analog color theory is achieved in this automatically. Okay. Now, coming to the rule of third balance, we have already learned the rule of third balance, how you apply the rule of third, and it allows you to balance it with the other elements in the frame or on the opposite side to create a more balance. Like here I said, this is my subject, but I balance them with a balancing subject, with the other subjects also into the frame. Okay, like here is my subject, but I try to balance it with a small boat. If the boat wasn't there, then definitely this photo looks interesting, but it could be more one-sided heavy and one-sided weighted photo as well. But by adding a small element into the photo, by applying a rule of third, of course, this boat came into the frame, and I balanced it as well. Now you can see as well, my main subject was aurora, but I balanced it with the houses as well. Okay, sometime you find subjects to balance it, sometime you can't find anything to balance it. So what you do, you be creative, try to balance it. So Here it's my one of the most deadliest and the risky photo that I took. I went down here, I risked my life. I was so stupid. I was standing on the edge, and just for one photo, it was my dream shot. I was shooting this waterfall. It's very huge, very powerful. Okay, but I try to balance it with myself as well, because there was no other subject that I could balance it. But I wanted to stand there so that I can create more drama, and this whole space turns into a powerful space as well at the same time. If I wasn't there, then this could be the turn into a negative space, or this could turn into a dead space as well. But just while standing there, beautiful story came out. Of course the risk part was there. It's not advisable, don't do the risk. I'm stupid. I do very very crazy things for photography, but not advisable. But again the subject and and the small element are now completely well balanced. Okay, again by rule of third, it's a rule of third as well. Okay, tonal balance is all about the balance in light and dark images. Okay, what is most of the time you can see in the black and white photos, because when the black and white photos are there, there are no color distractions and all that, so it looks more striking in the composition. And then black and white photos always look more striking as well, because the colors are not there. All the distractions can are gone. But now you can make it more interesting by composition, how you frame it, how you do the editing part also into the tonal balance. Or tonal balance can be seen in the photo where one color is dominating, only one color. The one color is filling the whole space of the photo. Like, you can see the first example is negative. This is like black and white photo. Okay, looks more appealing. Okay, tonal balance completely balanced here as well, black and white. Okay, again balanced. But let me show you one example of the tonal balance where the one color is dominating, just one color. Again, from the ice cave, it was the ice cave, and inside the ice cave I saw the forms and shapes, and I saw the color. The whole moment was lit up with the whole actually moment was bluish. Even on the ground as well, the one color is dominating, so the tonal balance is here as well. Again, you can see in this picture as well, one tonal balance again. But here you can see again the rule is applied: center framing, leading line, and the center framing as well. So I waited. This board guy was here. I didn't click there. I didn't click here. I waited till here. Then I clicked it. Why? Because the center framing. Because this line was leading me towards the subject. If this was clicked here, doesn't make any sense of this line as well. So I waited, this guy came into the middle, and then it gives a beautiful composition and the tonal balance as well. The whole one color is presented in the picture as well. Again, took this photo in the morning when it was really foggy. Again, I used the some editing, high key editing method, to bring out the more details of fog and all. This is a high key method. But again, the composition is here. This is again a beautiful picture. I wanted to show the tell the story through this image, that even if it's broken, it's still standing out there. So sometime in life you are so hard, you are hit hard, and you are broken, but don't give up. Stand till tall in your life. And even the other elements on your picture, the other parts of the picture are, like tilted or not that, but they are still standing. So this is what the color balance picture, tonal balance picture as well at the same time. Now fill the frame. Yeah, any question, good?
This is Boss 199, but you do
Yeah.
actually have a question. It says, in landscape photography, isn't it hard to find a particular color theory and just work with whatever the color natures present with us?
Yeah, it is actually. It is actually. But yeah, see, I said most of the time we landscape photographer, we love to shoot in sunrise and the sunset timing. In the sunrise, the sunset timing, of course, I know the colors will be more softer and the colors will be more there, because I can achieve some, if the clouds are there, so I can achieve some colors over there. So that's we try to achieve. But yes, it's hard to find, in your landscape photography the color theory. But as I said, having a knowledge of the color theory, it's always helpful in your landscape photography. But how you are applying it, where are you standing, what you are shooting, and what you are clicking, that tip completely different depends on photographer actually.
Perfect. I think you answered that
Yeah,
wonderfully.
thank you. And let me go again back. Sorry, on fill the frame. So next part is fill the frame. Of course, sometime we try to focus in the landscape photography or in the travel photography. We try to fill the whole frame with something because our idea over there is to emphasize on something particular actually, or something, or a moment which is happening around us, like filling the frame is very understandable. It's very, filling the frame doesn't mean that we add everything or we fill it by applying the rules. We need to fill it by applying the rules as well. It means when you are filling the frame, doesn't mean you forget the rules. You have to keep the rules in mind. Now what we are learning now and the next, of course we have to be very careful with the rules at the same time. Okay, you can see the rules in my photos as well. Even the different topics are going on, but the rules you can feel behind those topics as well. It should be more creative and not a boring composition. Like this picture, most of the time fill the frame is the best example we find in the abstract photo. In the abstract photo you can find fill the frame. There are more definitely details, and sometimes there is no subject in that frame, but it is completely filled with the details at the same time. So this one is like a drone photography. Like this one, fill the frame. Of course I intentionally or deliberately click this photo wide and use all the space. Okay, I didn't give the breathing space. There is not too much breathing space in that picture on left and right, you can see, because I wanted to represent the size and the grandeur of this place, of this stupa. It is a stupa. Normally we put the relics. For those who don't know, we put the relics of great lamas and great even Buddha as well. Not in this one, but there are stupas in India where you can find the ancient relics of Lord Buddha and the great lamas, inside. Okay, so this is as a piece of as a symbol of peace. Okay, we constructed in Ladakh. So basically, it's a huge monument or a huge structure. So I wanted to show that structure as a huge. That's why I completely fill it in my whole frame as well. So that's an idea. Okay, now this picture, if you talk about, it's very close to my heart. This picture is a beautiful story. I clicked this picture in Bangkok. We're in the night market. Okay, now how you can change the whole story, I will show you in the next click. In the next click, how you can change the whole story, how you can narrate, because landscape photography is not just clicking pictures. It's at the same time evoke some emotions, evoke some stories. So the people, those who are watching your photography, they connect to it. They actually feel, the way you felt on that moment while you are clicking over there. So this picture I click it deliberately. I went to the Bangkok, and it was I wanted to show the two sides of the city. One side, it is completely with the tents, with the night flea market, where the life is very limited. People are struggling. Life is poor. I wouldn't say the poor, but poor is wrong, but where life is difficult. And at the same time, your skyscrapers at the backside with the big buildings, with the huge mansions, town, luxury. It is a beautiful picture of a landscape story, and a story that I wanted to narrate. Next picture, how I use the fill the frame technique to completely change the perspective and give a value to these people instead of these people. You see, I used the zoom lens power, focal length power, and I focused and I filled the frame only with that colorful tints. Now it become more powerful shot, it become more detailing, it become more colorful, and now I'm narrating the story of these beautiful tents. You have to go to these places, these flea market, giving a value to the people, those who having less actually. So this is what storytelling, this is what your landscape photography, how you can change, how you can correlate, your photography, how you click first and then you click, change. So fill the frame can give you more actually depth into your photography as well. So this is what fill the frame technique. I use the fill the frame technique by using the zoom lens power, and I made a beautiful click. It's one of my favorite shot, it's one of my favorite click as well at the same time. Okay, again this picture, again I saw these branches. I remember it was in Malaysia somewhere. I was traveling, I went into the jungle. Yeah, did a tour of jungle. So these branches were connected to each other, so I wanted to show, the connection between, all these branches. So that's why I didn't take the whole actually tree. which is look like a crop tree here, but I didn't care about the crop tree because the whole focus and the whole story my was going there, and I wanted to fill it with everything, because it's so beautiful, so interconnected, that the smaller branches are connected with the long, yeah, the new branches, and the new branches connected with the old branches, the whole story coming out, so this is what fill the frame technique normally we use. Now this one again, fill the frame. This one was the moment was going on again from Bromo. I saw the smoke here, so I thought that could be the subject. I put it in the rule of third, again rule of third here, okay, I applied, and now the smoke were happening everywhere, the light was coming. Color theory, again you can see the warm tones and the cool tones, so you are achieving everything, but I focused on the fill the frame. I tried to fill it all with all and maximum details I could, I used the smoke, I used the lighting, I used the shadows, and you use the highlights and everything, so sometimes you use all the details and all the knowledge of your photography to make a one beautiful shot and composition. Again, fill the frame can be achieved by cropping the photo, also to make it more interesting and drag the viewer attention on a particular moment or subject. Of course, I didn't crop it in Photoshop. It was shot deliberately like this because I wanted to do these three, because these three were the main subject, were main moment of my life, because it was my dream to watch these balloons, because in India I never watched it. I went to Cappadocia was a dream destination, especially deliberately, especially I went for these balloons, I woke up 3 in the morning, rode a scooter rode my scooter all the way up to this land, this takeoff point, taking off point, and then I waited because sometimes he was burning and sometimes he was burning, so these it was very hard for me to capture these three at the same time, and they lit up. So basically it was so hard, so I waited for few minutes, and few minutes, and again the sunrise was happening. So color theory again, yeah, as you can see, it's achieved and great moment captured, and I try to use the fill the frame technique to capture it, more tight frame as well, waterfall could be the best example of your fill the frame. Sometimes landscape photographers use this technique in the waterfalls because they want to emphasize, they want to focus on the main subject, that is waterfall, and the waterfall looks more eye-catching. Like here you can see this is the waterfall in France, in Jura. I loved the whole composition, and I didn't care about the left and right and what is upside up there. It wasn't just interesting, but I went for a zoom lens technique and fill the frame technique, and I filled the whole frame with a waterfall as well. Instead of having a wide angle shot, I try to fill it with all the details that were having. And fill the frame technique also can avoid the unwanted elements as well. Sometimes there are unwanted elements that you don't want it, you can remove that as well. Okay. Simplicity. Simplicity is one of the simple composition in your photography. It means you don't care about so many rules. You just click by heart. You just click it. You just feel it and you click it. Like here in this picture, I just saw this girl enjoying the sunset, enjoying the Eiffel Tower, and I didn't care about these unwanted elements here. You can see, but I loved the moment and I clicked it. It becomes one of my favorite shot as well. Where she was enjoying the storyline is there, the feel and emotions were there as well in this picture. Like sometime simple tiny subject, you don't care, his smile and his moment of happiness was more important than the whole landscape. So I focused completely on that guy, not on the mountains and not on anything, so I just click a simple photo. Like this picture is one of my favorite. It's from the my collection as well. It is collected by one collector, and this is my second photo I sold in NFT, I believe. It's one of the most beautiful moment that I experienced in my life. This is in Myanmar. The monks are returning back to the home. Very simple photo, not any high editing or nothing. I just standing down in the bridge and sunset was happening, and I just clicked it. You can see it's a beautiful candid moment, everyone, like some catching expressions of smiles of people around us. It's the photos outstanding. It's very powerful. Sometimes this is again also from my collection as well. uh, you just simply click the moments with your zoom lens and technique, and now you can see center framing, okay, fill the frame. But I wasn't thinking on that time all this, I was just clicking the portrait of this lady. I was really deeply connected with her. I used my zoom technique, full zoom, and I clicked it, so okay. Simplicity, again, simple photos, very simple. It's one of my favorite and one of my amazing, very deep photo that I'm connected. These women in Vietnam, they die close for years and years, and then the colors remains on their hand. Now it's not washable. So now these colors become their identity of life. How a simple moment of your life and how a simple photo that you capture in a someone life can become an identity of that person, and can, you can correlate with that, with the story as well. So this is simplicity. Sometimes simple frames are become more powerful frames of your life. Like simplicity here. This is in my collection, Souls of the World 2. I love the simplicity, the intensity on his in his eyes, the lighting part, which is coming on his face, the shadow and the shadow and the highlight. I love that moment and I captured it. Okay, that's it. No extra thinking of rules on that moment. I just loved it and I captured it. Definitely I loved it. I placed it into the center, and I placed it, shot it a shallow depth of field. Of course, these are the normal techniques that a photographer do basically. Again, simple shot, no subject and nothing, just a simple shot with love the colors. I love the colors, and I see the colors reflection on the ground, and I clicked it. Sometimes you just click it by heart and you don't care about too much going deep into the compositions and all. Okay. Symmetry, one of the most interesting subject to shoot for the photographer. Symmetry photos give the feeling of calmness and beautiful reality of existing moment. Symmetry is one of the most challenging photo to shoot at the same time, because it needs precise measurement and positioning of the subject. For me, symmetry is not just a photography, it is a mental health of a person, of a photographer, because one can see that symmetry, one can feel that symmetry only when the calm mind is there. When you are at peace, when your mind is at peace, you can see the things differently. Because I remember when I was traveling somewhere. I Everyone was passing through that some small water lake, everyone, and there was not even a single person having attention of, the reflection of mountain was happening in the water lake. But I stopped and I saw, and I clicked it. So I think sometimes our mind is too occupied by other things, that we saw that we forget to see the things around us, the most beautiful things. So I think symmetry is one of the challenging subject to shoot, because it needs more precise and more precision, and the more positioning of the subject and the peaceful mind as well. So there are kind of symmetries. One is man-made symmetry, other is natural symmetry. Man-made symmetry, definitely you will find in the buildings and streets of daily life, and of course in your daily life, routine life. But like I said, it is very easy and at the same time very difficult to execute as well. But natural symmetry, of course, is one of the most photogenic subject to shoot. It is all about symmetry patterns that we see in our natural world. One should work very hard to find these patterns in the natural world, use his creative perspective to frame them. Let me show you some examples. uh, Man-made symmetry is like this. You can say vertical symmetry. First, when the left and the right side of the photo are symmetrical, are identical, we called it a vertical symmetry. Like you see this picture, you divide this picture into two parts. Okay, with the vertical line, you will see the left and the right parts are completely symmetry, completely identical. Okay, but again, normal people might be don't see these things. Maybe a guy who use this train station every day might be never felt that way. But I come to that place once in a lifetime, and I saw this symmetry and I clicked it. Again, I see, the more you practice, the more it comes to you naturally. Seeing these symmetries, and even seeing differently as well. Okay, so again, this is also man-made symmetry or natural symmetry. You see, the left and the right by dividing by the road as well. Okay, so now we coming to the types of symmetry: vertical and the horizontal symmetry, we call it a reflective symmetry as well. Okay, vertical symmetry is one of the most common type of symmetry. Draw imaginary vertical line at the center of the composition. It divides both the vertical, divides the side, both the sides. Vertical symmetry photo looks more visual appealing. It creates more interest into whole frame by dividing into two, shows the photographer creativity as well. Like you see this part, there are two buildings at the same time, two lighting at the same time, and I try to capture the symmetric way as well. Like this example, you know, left and right, it's completely same as well. It's more symmetry as well. Again, in this part as well, vertical symmetry, you just see divide this photo with a vertical line, and you'll see the left and the right part is more symmetrical as well. Again, vertical symmetry exists in the natural world as well. Sometimes you need to different method to see them. Drone photography can be the best example to see the symmetry in the natural world as well, because I have seen many pictures of drone photography and drone photos, that can give you the beautiful symmetry as well. Okay, reflective symmetry, it's the most favorite composition of photographers. It's one of my favorite because my collection is out there. Reflective world, you can see, and you can see even how difficult it could be and how easy it could be. But like I said, it took me years and years to visit those places and to see differently. Okay, there are some places which were so easy to see, so easy to find, and there were some places so hard to find. Years and years it took me, to get a reflection, or to maybe have a reflection over there. So sometimes it comes through the reflection in water, or it comes through a glass or mirror. So first we see, horizontal symmetry. It's not just about reflection, it's about creativity at the same time. Here I took the photo in Iceland to capture the whole scene in a more creative way and a different perspective. Like here I'm taking with the auroras and all. This is my dream shot. I wanted to take the auroras, and this it took me 4 visits, I get 4 years to see the auroras over this mountain. Every time I was having a bad weather, every time I was so unlucky with this place. But on one time I was get lucky. 5 years and 5 visits, and just one time I saw it again. It's a storytelling, like I said. Symmetry represents the calmness of place and the calmness of the photographer mind at the same time. When your mind at peace, you can see the things differently. When your mind is not at peace, you can't see the things differently, you can't click the symmetry as well. So this is one of the amazing photo, my reflective world again, reflection. And it's an amazing moment I had in Iceland as well. It's so calm in the morning, and I saw this water reflection, and I clicked it again. It takes time, it takes your mind to study how you want to click, what you want to click, and precision as well, because you need a precise details in that. Again, this can be the reflective as well. If you divide this photo into two part, these are the natural symmetry, natural. But now the man-made symmetry, if you see, you divide this part into, you can see the up and the right part completely, identical as well. Now again, reflective symmetry, it's easy to find but hard to follow. It takes very good precise precision and study to create the frame that looks appealing as well. These I remember in somewhere in Amsterdam, near Amsterdam. This place is near Amsterdam, which is called Houten. It's a 1 hour train, I think it's 1.5 hour trains from Amsterdam. Amazing houses, wonderful houses. It was my dream to watch these colorful houses. These are amazing. So reflection was happening. I took the picture with the long exposure as well. Now coming framing, our last topic, I guess, framing. What do you mean by framing? It's one of the compositional rule where the technique is used to isolate the subject using element within a scene as a frame. In simple words, a frame within a frame. Of course, we always look for that kind of frame. It is a dream of a landscape photographer to shoot, through the caves, or through the tunnels, or through some areas to which give a sense of frame in a frame. Like this picture you talk about is it's one of my favorite as well. It's from Dolomites. There is a frame, that is our camera frame first. Okay, this is our camera frame, and now there is another frame into that, but the subject is this one. This is my subject. So now I'm isolating the subject by a frame within a frame. Okay, by a frame within a frame. So this is what it, so it creates more attention, it creates more drama, it looks more appealing when you create frames like this, a frame within a frame. Okay, like here you can see, it was again my Iceland exploration. I wanted to have a attention and drama, so I'm the subject, and now this ice cave is a frame itself. There is a frame itself, and within a frame. So this is more appealing than regular frames. Again, this picture I clicked in Iceland, this cave, I used, there's a waterfall, and I went behind the waterfall. It's one of the most challenging photo I think in the world. Those who have been there, those who have been to Iceland, those who have been behind of that waterfall, they know the struggle. You know, in 5 years I just clicked one picture because the water is so heavy, it's so powerful. The water splashes come all the time, and it ruins the photo all the time. I think very few photographers have managed to click the picture from the behind, very, and it's very challenging. So I used this frame, this ice cave as a frame, sorry, ice cave, I'm saying this natural cave as a frame to create a frame. So a frame within a frame. Now the colors in the sky and the light reflecting on the edges, creating more drama as well. Now, creative part. Of course, can't find the frame all the time in the natural world. You have to be creative sometime. Yeah, like we said, first you learn the rules, then you start evolving, then you start actually creating your own rules and your own guidelines, and be more creative in your way, in your signature style of photography. So this is what I did. It's just an example, a frame within a frame. I told my friend, to hold a phone camera, and then I click a Eiffel Tower in your phone instead of that is a frame within a frame. Okay, again, this is again Dolomites. This is one of my favorite photo. It is on foundation as well. It is first piece I minted, it's still there. And then beautiful story. I slept in that cave. You don't believe, I spent a night in that cave, with my friend. We were so crazy, we were so excited, that we were so excited about the night stars and night trails as well. So we had to struggle a lot. We walked to this cave, we had a sunset, and then we slept in the cave to have a beautiful night as well. We got lucky with the weather, that all the clouds gone, in the night. So we were lucky to saw some stars over there, and the Milky Way as well. So you can see on my foundation as well. So again, don't limit yourself to the existing frames around the scene. Create create some beautiful frames or beautiful stories. Like here I saw this father and son. It's in India, returning back, and I, instead of positioning the son here, or maybe here or up, I decided to position him in within his legs. So creating a frame within myself. So I just created a frame within a frame. So sometimes you have to be very creative. Like these are the lighter example of frame within a frame. Always you can see, again, frame within a frame. That's again creative version of my framing within a frame. I wanted to tell the story of this artist I met on the streets of Bangkok, creating a beautiful portrait, and there is a frame inside, and I am clicking on one frame. So frame in a frame, it's just more creative and a more story wise, that you can create sometime. Again, don't stick to the rules, think out of the box to frame something creative always. Here I love this frame, had his own feeling and moment. Creative framing is always more appreciated than the regular frames. Don't hesitate to break some rules to learn something new. World is full of objects. You can use all the elements, natural frames, man-made elements, natural elements, to use all the details to create something creative photos. Every photographer should learn and rules of composition as a good starting point. Once you learn those rules, of course, once they understand these rules, their photography composition is over improved, and thinking outside the guidelines to create stunning images become more natural. So the conclusion is, learn the rules, then apply those rules for years and years, and then try breaking those rules as well. That is the rule of composition today. Filters and all. So what is long exposure photography? Of course, we use long exposure photography to create more dramatic and more interesting photos, actually, when the clouds were moving, when the subjects were moving, and you wanted to. So how we achieve this long exposure, basically we use with the filters, actually. So what are filters? Basically, the filter is a glass or element that we put in the front of the camera to achieve the results that can be produced by the lens itself. Okay, and sometimes it can be used to protect the lens, to cut the light to enter into cameras. Okay, simple as that. So if you see this picture, first picture, it is a long exposure photography. Okay, like most of the time you see the picture where the silky smooth effect of water is coming. Waterfall is looking more silky and smooth. Like, let me show you some examples of uh, of like I posted this picture today. It's my first NFT, new NFT I dropped, like this one. So these are long exposure photography, where I left my camera for a long exposure, for a second, for a 2 second, for 3 second, for 4 second, or maybe it can goes to 5 second, 10 second, depending on your subject, what are you shooting. Long exposure photography, it's a different kind of photography that needs a different calculations and different elements to achieve that. Like astrophotography, you can say that it's a long exposure photography itself, because there, to achieve the to click the Milky Way, you leave the camera for 20 seconds and 30 seconds, and then you can see the Milky Way in your photos, that again with the techniques. So long exposure again comes in that way, where you leave the exposure, where you leave the camera open for few seconds, so that you can achieve a different drama or details in the photos as well. Sometime moving clouds, sometime moving waterfalls and all that, or sometime you do to have a smooth and silky effect in your photos as well. So but how we can achieve it, can be achieved only by the use of filters. So there are few set of filters that are recommended in landscape photography or in the travel photography, that one should travel with that. Like filters are mostly used by photographers. Most of the time, photographers from beginners to professional, they use the filters. Mostly the filters we used are CPL and the ND filters. It allows the photographer to produce the desired result. Now the desired result I just explained, like waterfalls and moving clouds and any other Milky Way effect and all that. But for Milky Way, normally we don't use filters, but for other parts we use. Why one should use the filters? Of course, to get the better photos, to save time, to avoid more post processing. Of course, if you ask me, Gun, can I produce a smooth, silky photo in the Photoshop? Yes, there are some ways. Can I produce some moving clouds in the Photoshop? Yes, there are ways as well, but it's a lengthy process. You need to take many pictures, then stack them to create a moving cloud or moving water effects. But the best way to use the filter, so that you can avoid the long processing, post processing method as well, to get the color enhanced photos and the long exposure effects, to get more dramatic scene in the mood as well. Of course, that's why we use filters as well. Okay, types of filter in the market. We have a three kinds of filter in the market. I'm pretty sure anyone who went out to buy a camera, the first thing your camera guy told you, don't you want any filter? Of course, after the camera, they always recommend us to buy a filter. Either it's a UV filter or a circular filter or whatever kind of filter, they always suggest you to buy it because it's recommended with the camera. But what are the kinds of filter that are available in the market? There are circular filters, there are circular square filters, and there are circular variable filters as well. Variable means in one filter there are different degree, there are different filters that are available in one filter. Kind of filters, now you have a UV filters, CP filters, CPL filters, ND filters, GND filters, and the variable filters. So we're gonna talk about these filters in brief and not in depth too much, so that you can have an idea what are these filters exactly and what is their job. What is UV filter? For me, it's just a filter that protects you from the camera from scratches. Normally, I use that filter for years just to protect my camera, but scientifically they say the UV rays, it protects your camera sensor from the UV rays. But I'm not a scientific guy, and I don't know, and don't go into deep that much technical parts. But yes, if they say that it must be true. But for me, it's a filter that use normally to protect your lens from the scratches, and if your camera somewhere bump into something and all that, you can lose maximum the filter, not the whole lens actually, or the lens glass. Okay. CPL filter, it's a filter that we used in front of the camera. It's like a polarized filter, like these days you have a polarized sunglasses. In simple words, it removes the reflection and glare from the water, or enhance the colors like sky and foreground. Okay. Whatever non-metallic thing you have, sometimes you have reflections, and sometimes you have reflections on the from glares from the sun when you're shooting in the daytime. So this filter can help you to remove the reflections and glares from that. Like this filter, I achieved this rainbow with the with the with the with the CPL filter. Now the CPL filter is a circular filter, means it's a filter that turns in that turns round and round. It turns basically in front of the camera. Okay, so you can turn it to kill the rainbow, and you can turn it to bring it back, the rainbow in your camera itself. So because we believe rainbow is a reflection itself, it's not actual, it's just a reflection of light and shadows, and which is happening, lights and colors. So one normally, we use the CPL filter to basically anything that reflecting on non-metallic like water and anything, to remove it. Basically it works at 90-degree from the light source. It works really best from the 90-degree from the light source, where you are standing, where are you standing, and what are the light source is coming from, where you have to check that, and then you can use that filter. So in simple words, it's a filter that normally we use to remove the glares and remove the reflection from many parts. Now the main filter in the landscape photography, it's called neutral density filter. In simple word, if I say, it is the filter that the light cuts the light to enter into the camera. Of course, there is one thing that I want a waterfall as a smooth and silky. And for that, I need to open my camera for 5 seconds. But 5 seconds is too much for camera, for too much. Lot of light can enter into a camera for 5 seconds. You can try with your camera, you just take it for few seconds, for half of the second. Too much light goes into that camera. So to achieve that shutter speed, to achieve the desired shutter speed, that I want my my camera open for 5 seconds, and because I know in that 5 second I can you have this waterfall smooth and silky. So for that I need to cut the light. And how can I cut the light? I can put a filter in front of the camera, so that it will allow only the limited light into the camera, and at the same time I get the desired shutter speed as well, to get a desired result. Okay, so now the specification of ND filters. There are ND circular filters, means the circular, the circle ones. Okay, these are the degrees: 6 stop, 3 stop, 10 stop, and 15 stop. Now there are ND circular variable filters, like these are the one filter. In that one filter you have 1.5 to 5 stops. That means sometime some landscape photographers, they buy different stops. Means these stops means this is the degree of filters that can stop the light in going into camera. These are the degree in simple words. But there is one circular variable filter, means you don't need to buy many. They can buy one circular filter that can goes for 1.5 to 5 stop. There are ND square filters. Now there are square filters, means it's a kind of square like these filters. There are squares. Okay, these are squares. Okay, they came in front of the camera. You put it in front of the camera. You first put the holder, and then you slide it into the holder. And these are mostly recommended by the landscape photographer. Most of the landscape photographer use these ND square filters basically. Okay, so these are the degrees basically. If I go more deeply into that, like I gave you one example, like simple example. Imagine if you want to shoot a waterfall without without filter, you put a aperture at f14. Okay, f14 aperture, because you want to capture the more details at more shallow, maximum depth of field. And then your shutter speed is coming 1 second, 1 second. Okay, without filter. But now you want to make it more, means you want to click for 5 seconds, but in 5 seconds more light will come in. So you will do what? You will use the ND filters. So these are the degrees of the ND filters. Imagine if your normal speed is coming 1 second, if you put a ND 2 stops, it will give you a 4 second of exposure, 4 second of exposure. Now imagine your original speed is coming 1 second. Now you put a ND stop of 3 second, it will give you a 8 second. Now you ask me a question on a practical ground. Nakul, do the people buy these different filters? No, normally no. Normally people start with the ND10 stop. It is mostly used and mostly recommended filter by the photographers. You use this ND10 stop, which can stop lot of light, and which can stop many, which can gives you many stops as well. Okay, means dark, more dark, and then you do the test shot on the ground. I don't have many filters. I have only 2 or 3 filters. So when I do photography, before taking a picture, because sometime I am also not sure at what second I can have this waterfall as smooth and silky. At what second I can have these clouds, moving clouds. So what is the best way that I do practically on the practical ground? I'm honest. I take a test shot. I just filter. Okay, I set my aperture. I 30-second speed or a 40-second speed or whatever speed I want. Then I take a test shot. Then I see if the water is smooth and silky or not, if the frame is too bright or too dark. Then I play with some settings, so these are the best way, that you can't have many filters, at the same time. Sometimes you have just only one filter, but you try with the one filter by applying the test shots as well. Best exposure time, normally this is the way. If you want to shoot a seascapes, like here, what you see in my first photo, like seascapes, these pictures, this is clicked at 2 seconds, but with the filter on. Okay, I was at f13, ISO 1250, shutter speed was 2 seconds with the ND106 top filter. Okay, so normally when you want to shoot a seascapes, the recommended second, it's between 0.5 to 2 seconds of shutter speed, gives you the seascapes water flow. When you move a moving traffic, between 0.5 to 5 seconds. Waterfalls, 2 to 10 seconds. Okay, depending on which waterfall, depending on how smooth you want your waterfall. Smooth and misty waterfalls or trails or cloud or any other thing, 30 to 60 seconds you can go. Cloud movements and softened clouds, like you want a good cloud movements, like here I went for a cloud movements. These are the cloud movements. Okay, like 2 to 5 minutes. I mean, I left my camera 2 to 5 minutes open with the filter on, and then I get a moving clouds as well. Okay, so if you ask me the moving clouds, why moving clouds? Because the clouds are always moving. Okay, the clouds are moving, or the earth is rotating. Okay, clouds are moving, sorry. So in what condition you use the ND filters? I prefer during sunset and sunrise, in blue hour, during golden hour, when I shoot seascapes, when I want to shoot waterfalls, and when I need a low shutter speed without losing details. I want a low shutter speed without losing details, then I use the filters basically. Like you can see, this is behind the scene. Okay, I can show you. This is the normal picture, like this. The clouds are like this, but when I use the ND filter and the long exposure technique, the result came like this, the moving clouds. Okay, moving cloud. The earth is same, only the clouds are moving, and the whole composition is stable over there. Okay, these are the techniques we use, long exposure. Now what are the GND filters? GND filters are natural density filters. It is a filter that is divided into two part. One part is half dark and other part is transparent. Okay, like this one I showed you, this is ND filter because the whole part is dark. This whole part is completely dark because the whole filter stops the light to come, stops the light. But GND filter is different. GND filter is different completely. It means it is half dark and half bright. Why? Because sometimes I'm stuck at some positions where my only half part, means my foreground is already in the shadow and my sky is bright. So I need a GND filter over there, because I don't want the full light to come, full light to cut. I want the light on the foreground, but I now want the light to cut on the background, means on the sky. So I use the GND filters basically to reduce the exposure difference in the frame. Okay, by reducing the exposure difference, which means to able to capture the best details in the dark and the light part of the area. Now there are some specification: soft GND, medium GND, hard GND, reverse GND. Soft GND means there is a soft transition. Well, if I want to show you the filter, basically I don't have the video right now, but I can show you these filters are basically half dark and half light. So you can start from the half, there are use the transition between light and the dark areas. Normally we use this soft GND between tall buildings, mountains and other elements as well. Medium GND, these are the other darker small transactions between soft and light, means they are coming dark, and then they are coming light. So these are becoming like this, from dark to light, dark to bright. They are coming becoming like this. Images are mostly building, mountains, small elements. We use medium GND into that areas basically. Okay, hard GND means it is completely half dark and half bright. You can even see the line in between. In There's a complete dark line as well. It means I use these filters mostly when I'm stuck, where I'm half my sky, where my half part is completely bright and half part is completely light. So I mean, normally in the seascapes where the horizon line is straight, horizon line, mean in the seascapes I use the hard gnd filters as well. Reverse, it's a reverse of the hard gnd, you can say reverse of the hard gnd, just in a reverse way. Now the upper part is bright and the lower part is dark as well. So, okay, that is the gnd. So you can see there is example, one picture without the filter. Okay, this part, sorry, if I show this photo. Okay, there I take a picture without, as an example how it normally looks, but after using the filters, long exposure, I use the I use the nd filters and I use the gnd filters. So why I use both? Because I wanted the light to come, more light, less light to come inside the camera, so that I can have moving clouds, because I went for a very long exposure, almost like 2 minutes or 3 minutes of picture, so that's why I use both the filters, so that the less light come. So best way to shoot with filter: stop the camera on tripod, take a picture, or set the cpl filter or your holder, take a exposure reading first. What are the exposure reading? Focus on the subject. Yeah, one of the mistake that we do, that after putting the filter, it's very hard to focus because the camera becomes very dark. Okay, so first you need to take the focus, then turn off the focus, then put a filter. After taking the focus, you put a filter, then take a photo, then take a test shot. Normally I do the test shot. Is it dark, is it too bright, is the clouds are moving, is the water face looking smooth and silky or not? So that is what normally I do. Test shots are always there. Enjoy, shoot and all that. So this is what normally long exposure photography with the filters we do basically. Question?
No, we don't have any questions in the chat.
Okay, okay, thank you. So I think people loved it. People have you have already saved or recorded the session. Anything, anything on composition, anything you want to ask, please let me know, brother.
All right, thank you so much. Thank you for sharing this with all of us. It was a lot
Nah,
of good information for
I,
everyone.
No, it's okay. See, the composition, I said, it's one of the most interesting part of photography. The more you practice, the more people learn it. Like you said, you are excited now. Take out your camera and go out, and shoot. And of course, I said, more. It's okay. Sometimes it takes years and years to to come with a photography behavior and nature. And there is not even a single photographer who don't do mistakes. Even I do mistakes till today as well. I'm in a learning process as well, and I learn every day. The best way to keep yourself motivated and learn from it's to learn from others. Go out, because the more you shoot in the natural world, more you get familiar with the light, more you get familiar with the settings, more you get familiar with the areas and actually the timings. So next time when you go out in any new destination, you don't feel awkward and you don't feel how to shoot. And the second advice that I want to give: whenever you go out, take your time to shoot. Most of the time we do mistakes is we don't take a moment to feel around us, what are the elements that around us. Okay, the best advice when I do photography, whenever I reach into a new town or a new city, I've been to 40 countries so far, and all for that was my dream destination, to travel around the world for photography. And I spend normally 2 or 3 nights in a city. First day I do what? I do just scouting. I do just without my camera or with my phone, I roam around. I see what are the elements and what are the things that are available. Even if I'm traveling with my camera or going out the first day, when I arrive into a new town or a new city, I just try to first feel it and just look around. Is there any rock? Is there any tree? Is there any elements, natural or man-made elements that could be into my photo, and that could be the compositional photo. So sometimes you have time and sometimes people don't have time. Of course, it depending on person to person. If you have a time, take a few minutes to scout, to feel around your area, and then definitely you will get a feel of the composition. Then you start framing, because once you are back from that trip, that is so hard to go back. And because sometimes people go once in their lifetime and they miss that, so best advice is to take your time on trips, and always go with time. And if you don't have a time, then the best way is to join workshops, and people and land experienced photographers, those who can help you, because guy like me travel for months and months. I mean, it's been already 2.5 months, and 2.5 months I'm traveling in Europe.
Yeah.
I haven't I haven't clicked that much photos, but
I think
but
that's great advice because a lot of times we just get eager to shoot the photos and not put in the work and actually take in the area around you before you really think about what you want to shoot. So,
it is very common, because people see, everyone is different agenda with photography. Some people travel with families, some people travel with travel only for photography. Guy like me travel only for photography for months and months, and that's why the pictures I have showed you, the pictures I have seen, like if you ask me in Iceland, I've been to Iceland 5 times. And then it took me years and years of research and years of Iceland photos. If you see a one perfect photo of northern lights, might be it's my fourth visit that I got it. Ice cave photo that I showed you, ice cave photo, it was my third visit. 2 times I have paid. I have literally first time failed, second time failed, third time I got it. So of course it takes years, it takes patience, and it takes landscape photography is all about feeling. Plus, along with that feeling, story lineup. Story lineup is very mandatory in your landscape photography. When you are shooting something, make a story that can evoke an emotion into people. If you are sharing a one landscape picture with me, Gun, I will definitely ask you where it is, how it is. I want to go there. So the purpose of landscape photography is not just to click a beautiful destination and then show it. The purpose of the landscape photography is to bring a story and evoking an emotion into the people so that they connect to it. Might be they get inspired to go there, or might be they are enjoying a photo on the screen at the same time if they can't go there. So that's the purpose of landscape photography or travel photography that I believe.
well, it really shows in your work, Nicole. Thank you so
Thank
much
you.
for doing this and sharing it with everyone.
Thank you, bro. Thank you. And I'm glad I did. And I'm happy. I'm looking forward to do more and more, of course. Let's see, maybe we can plan after, long after some time, one more session when people are more excited and know new people, because I know in your meta jungle every day new people are joining and new people are coming with a lot of questions and a lot of things. And of course, why not making and having a one more session later on after a month or after 2 months when more new people joined in your space.
Yeah, that sounds great. Thank you again, Nicole,
Yep. My pleasure, my pleasure.
and have a good day.